Okay, let's run.
Your mission, should you choose to accept it.
It's a quest. It's a quest for fun.
Well, The Rock says, why don't we just cut right to the chase?
Okay, now he wants to get together. Well, he wants to talk.
I want you to do me a favor. I want you to tell all your friends about me.
It's showtime, folks!
What are you?
Greetings and salutations, Happy New Year, and welcome to the season premiere of And I Quote. This is the weekly show where we introduce you to content creators from all over the world, all over the universe, really, and we find out more about them by taking your questions. I am your host, Ryan of And I Quote channel, and our guest for this season premiere of And I Quote. What better way to kick things off than with indie author, singer, and someone who just happened to have built a time machine. Not a DeLorean, but hey, if you're going to build a time machine into a car, why not do it with some style? Please welcome Brian Paone to the studio, who is actually joining us from that very vehicle known as the time-traveling DeLorean. Brian, welcome in. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Doing
Good
well.
To
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for being here. Do greatly appreciate it. Now, if you have any questions for Brian Paone as we go throughout the course of this episode, let us know in the comments. Let us know in the chat. Our producers are going to be monitoring it as you go throughout the course of this program. But in the meantime, Brian, what would you say were some of your favorite books and or writers growing up?
Growing up, I fell in love with books from a very early age. I would actually say that Judy Blume's Tale of a Fourth Grade Nothing was probably the first book that I would say was my favorite when I was a kid. And then my stepmother gave me a book by this unknown author called Stephen King for Christmas one year. And, I'd seen some of his movies, but I'd never read an actual novel. And she felt that I was mature enough or had gotten to the point where, I could probably handle something like that. And it was the first, adult book, first non-Tales of a Fourth Grade Nothing book that I had read. So my first Stephen King book was The Dark Half, which is kind of the anomaly of his books. People always go, well, the first one I read was The Shining, or the first one I read was It, or the first one I read was Carrie, or Salem's Lot. But here's me, The Dark Half, which is usually forgotten by most people unless you're an actual fan. And I remember getting to the last page and being like, oh my God, I will never go back to Tales of a Fourth Grade Nothing. That was just, it was like someone had hit me in the back of the head with some sort of bat, and I was like, this is what I want to do with my life. This is amazing. And and you and we've been talking, quite a bit between yesterday and today, and I've said that, calling out Stephen King as your inspiration or whatever is kind of cliche. It's but I truly believe that if it wasn't for my stepmother gifting me The Dark Half, I don't necessarily know I would have found him when I did. And he definitely shaped the way that I rethought books should be written or stories should be told. And then, he was my gateway drug to, Clive Barker and Anne Rice and H.P. Lovecraft and Edgar Allan Poe. And I know that Poe and Lovecraft, precede King, but I found them and loved them because of my love for King, so he opened up a doorway to both future and past, macabre-esque writers.
Well, here's Johnny. Good points. Stephen King, number of his books have been adapted into many film and TV projects, and actually brings us to our next question. What would you say are some of your favorite movies or TV series, past or present?
So if we're just going to go, off the chain, my favorite TV shows growing up, I think what has shaped me, culturally and a lot of the things that I still kind of go back to. Number one is The Muppet Show. That's my number one all time. As you and I talked, I'm wearing a Muppet Show hoodie. Because, you and I talked about the Muppet Show, so I wore this for you. I didn't wear this for anybody else watching. I was like, you know what? Ryan is going to love my Muppet Show hoodie. So I put that on for you. Wink, wink. But I also really loved Alf, Full House, Cosby Show. I really the whole that I was really into the sitcoms in the 80s. And but there was something about the Muppet Show that was special, and not just the show itself, but the films. And you and I were talking yesterday about so my favorite Christmas movie of all time is Emmett Otter's Drug Band Christmas. We were talking about that, and it's by Jim Henson and their Muppets, even though none of the traditional Muppets are in it. But there's just something special about what I think Henson was doing, and I'm glad that like his legacy has lived on and they didn't tarnish it. I really respect a lot of the stuff that they've done post his death. I thought that the Muppets movie that came out in the the one with what's his name? You know what I'm talking about?
Jason Segel in 2011.
Yes, I thought that.
Yeah.
So my favorite
Amy
Muppet
Adams.
movie.
Yeah.
My favorite Muppet movie of all time is Muppets Take Manhattan.
Ooh,
And then
Manhattan Melodies, ladies and gentlemen.
And then second is Muppets from Space.
Oh.
And then this one. I think this one was better than Muppet Caper, Muppet Movie. I just thought they did such a brilliant job bringing in Walter and not making it like just kind of rebooting it from from a writer standpoint. It was fantastic. But yeah, I mean, but I also grew up. My dad was really, really big on. I don't know if you remember something called Creature Double Feature, and it wasn't a TV show, but it was back-to-back 50s or 60s sci-fi movies on Sunday afternoons. And as a kid, I used to watch these Creature Double Features of them. So it was like movies like Day of the Triffids, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, like Invaders from Mars, like those type of campy Plan 9 from Outer Space-esque movies. And something about that, I think, also shaped kind of how I think when I write. I kind of dig back to some of that stuff. And the Twilight Zone, I'm a huge Twilight Zone fan. So the original, Rod Sterling, he comes out, he narrates, he looks so dapper in his suit, so.
Wow, we just ran the gamut of different shows from certain eras. But yeah,
you put me in a time machine car. We're going to go everywhere.
We did. We went 88 miles per hour. And we saw some serious stuff already, and it's been a blast. No pun intended, ladies and gentlemen. But no, great gamut of shows. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with properties like Emmett Otter's Drug Band Christmas, it is available on streaming services. It's available on YouTube. You can stream it. You can watch it whenever you want. It's a timeless classic. I remember watching it on VHS as a kid myself. One of my brothers is really into it. He loves it. He watches it every holiday season. For those of you who tune in for those sort of things. So yeah, and the Muppets have been around for so long. They're kind of hard to miss because they're everywhere. The toys are still going. The Funko Pops are selling like crazy. The merchandise is still there. A lot of the puppeteers, people who have worked with Jim Henson and his wonderful group of people in the workshop are on the convention circuit. So if you ever get a chance to meet any of those individuals, such as whether it's Steve Whitmire or Guy Gilchrist, has done a number of things over the years. Yep. So say hi to those individuals because they're awesome. And you can learn a lot from them. You really can. It's not to give anyone a shameless plug here on this show, but hey, if you're a fan of a property, you're allowed to give it a shameless plug, right?
That's right.
I mean, Guy Gilchrist is on Instagram. You follow him. He posts all the meetings he's had with fans at conventions, and it's a wonderful experience. He like draws stuff freehand. He just draws it on people's sweatshirts. He's drawn on people's like guitars, or what do you call them? Like guitars. He's written stuff or drawn stuff on instruments.
Yeah, and what I love about him so much is that he's so into the fans, right? He's not in it for the money.
No.
He doesn't care about the $50 autograph. I mean, I do enough conventions and I've met enough celebrities where you can tell within 30 seconds who loves the fact. So here's a really quick story if we want to derail for a second.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm a huge Rocky Horror Picture Show fan. It's actually the movie I've seen the most out of any film in history. I used to work at the Rocky Horror Show in Harvard Square in Boston. I wasn't part of the shadow cast, but I was the one in charge of putting the V's on virgins' foreheads with the lipstick before the show started. So I think I've seen Rocky Horror about 250 times in the theater. I think that's where anyway. So now I have two teenagers who both now love Rocky Horror. And every year at GalaxyCon in Richmond, Virginia, which I do every year as an author, I have my booth. I sign books. I have the DeLorean there. But they always do Rocky Horror on Saturday night. It's kind of a tradition. And last year, Barry Bostwick was at the convention, and I went up to his booth when there wasn't a line, and I said, Barry, I said, I did the Harvard Square Rocky Horror for like 4 years. I said, I'm like 2 rows over and with my DeLorean. It's like, if you want to come by, I'd love to get a picture of you in my car. And I just left it at that. And I walked away. Do you know that after he was done signing, I look up and Barry Bostwick, who is standing at my booth, waiting to talk to me?
Wow.
Now, being a Rocky Horror fan, right?
Great Scott.
I'm just like, holy fucking shit. Like Barry Bostwick and he spent 15 minutes. He was so interested in my books.
Mm-hmm.
He was wanting to know about the car,
Wow.
how long I've owned it, what type of stuff I wrote. So there's always you get a sense when a celebrity
They care.
really they care. And
Yeah.
he got in the car, he got in the passenger seat. I took a bunch of photos. He was doing poses. He even did like the windshield wiper asshole slut thing as a joke with me.
God.
And when he walked away, I was like, could that guy have been any cooler? Right. So then they did Rocky Horror that night.
Mm-hmm.
And he was backstage because he was gonna MC it.
Yes.
And I didn't even know he was backstage.
Oh.
And when they came out and did the Virgin, they took all the Virgins up on stage and they did their thing. Somebody, one of the cast members actually dropped a piece of their clothing, and nobody noticed.
Oh.
So I took it upon myself because I had done Rocky, like I'd worked for Rocky so long. I didn't feel like I was overstepping my bounds. I ran up on stage, I grabbed the article,
Yes.
and then I went backstage like on my own with nobody stopping me because I was trying to retrieve. I was like, oh my God, somebody lost this. And Barry's backstage, he sees me and he's like, hey, there's my buddy. And he gave me a hug. So it was like, it just shows that like how it was just super surreal, and then I went back to my seat because my teenagers were out there, and and my teenagers are so funny because they've seen Rocky Horror now enough times where like they love watching the virgins go up because they remember what it was like for them.
Oh, boy.
But I get looks from other parents, who are like, but I was like, no, this is the age I was at when I went to Rocky.
Oh,
so
gosh.
I totally hijacked this interview about Rocky Horror. I'm sorry.
Wow. No. We appreciate the story, and we appreciate you diving into what is known as Comic Cons, because we're going to be talking about that a little bit later. So you jumped ahead a few steps. But that's okay. We're going to get to it a little bit later, but we do appreciate you sharing that story. We hope you, who may be watching or listening to this episode of the season premiere of And I Quote with Brian Paone as our guest, are enjoying this. Don't forget to like and share this with everyone you know. If you have any questions for Brian about the Comic-Con circuit, maybe some of the books he's written in the past number of years, let us know in the comments. Let us know in the chat. I'm more than happy to take those as they come in respectively. But, man, you mentioned Barry Bostwick. It's funny because I know he's known for mostly Rocky Horror and a few other projects, but the one I know him from, this is how I was introduced to him professionally as an actor. This is how I was introduced to him. So there was this film that came out, I think it was I want to say it was the early 90s, I want to say. And it was Weekend at Bernie's 2.
Of course. Right.
And he plays Hummel, the private investigator for the insurance company that's trying to figure out where Bernie stashed that money.
Right.
That he stole from the company, if I'm remembering that correctly.
Yes, right.
So when he shows up in Weekend at Bernie's 2, and this is probably going to get the comment section lit up a little bit.
I hope so.
I actually enjoy Weekend at Bernie's 2
better than part 1.
For some bizarre reason, I know this is going to sound strange, but I enjoy the second installment more so than the first because not only is he in it, but also you have the voice actress. I can't remember her real name offhand. I apologize. But the actress who's the diving tour guide is the voiceover actress for Patty Mayonnaise on the animated series Doug.
Oh,
So
okay.
the
Sure.
fact that she's in it and makes that cameo as the tour guide for the people who are underwater during that scuba,
Yeah, that's
tour.
a good homage almost.
Yeah, which is kind of funny. That's
Yeah.
so she's in it, he's in it. I enjoy the movie, and that's how I was introduced to who is known as Barry Bostwick as a professional actor. And it's funny you mention him now because at GalaxyCon, that same event, specifically GalaxyCon in Richmond, because GalaxyCon has different events around the country.
Right.
At Richmond, we were staying. My friend and I were staying at the same hotel that a lot of the celebrities were at.
Wait,
So
so you were at GalaxyCon Richmond?
I was, and I saw Barry walking down the hallway.
Did you see me? Did you see me?
I don't know. I can't remember exactly. I may have or I may have not. I don't remember.
So you don't remember a DeLorean?
Well, I do remember seeing you at the convention. I don't remember seeing you at the hotel.
Oh no, I wasn't at the hotel, but you saw me at the convention.
No, but yes, I do remember seeing you at the convention, meeting you, and seeing the DeLorean, and
okay.
talking with you, and saying, hey, if you ever want to be a part of my show one day,
right. No, I remember all that, but
all
what I'm saying is like, yeah. Okay, no.
Yeah.
Yes.
No. I didn't want to
Are
forget.
you going to be at this one? The coming up one?
For GalaxyCon Richmond 2024.
Have you seen the guest list?
Well, they do have a lot of Star Wars people that I'm
It
dying
is
to meet,
a fuckload
including Emily, who plays the armor on Mando, and I freaking love the armor, like freaking love that character. See, here's the thing. I can't guarantee I'm going to be at Richmond because I'm doing my best to not to give away too many spoilers here on this show. But then again, we do put together what is known as the And I Quote Channel Comic-Con tour every year.
Sure.
So we are planning on being at GalaxyCon in Raleigh.
Yeah, I can't go. Yeah, so so I have a mile radius that I do with the car only because if God forbid I have a breakdown, I don't want to be so far away from home. So I have a bubble, but here's some food for thought. If you want to do a show live from the DeLorean,
it would be nice.
We could set it up so you and I'm in the driver's seat, you're in the passenger seat, and or you're in the driver's seat and whoever you're interviewing is in the passenger seat. I'll step aside and you can film a whole show from inside my car.
What? Oh my gosh. The temptations on this.
I want to see both hands because I feel like you're touching yourself. I'm not quite sure.
No, not that way. Not that way. No, we don't. I try to keep things family friendly on these shows.
All right.
I really do.
PG, yeah.
We're trying to keep this PG.
So I rub my knee when I get excited. That's what I meant.
No, we're not going there, folks. But anyway, my point is that the guest list is incredible because it's GalaxyCon. They always bring out the big guns. They always do. If you've never been to a GalaxyCon show, please look them up on social media. You can find the website there. They have different shows in and around the country. There's one in Richmond. There's one in Raleigh. I've been to both Richmond and Raleigh. The two R's, believe it or not. I know there's one in, I think there's GalaxyCon Columbus, Ohio. There's Galaxy. They're everywhere. So bottom line is
they're good. And you know what, they treat me really, really well. I gotta say, like I have to give them props. They want me back every year, and they treat me very, very well.
And a number of my friends also table at GalaxyCon shows, such as Amorable Art with Pat Kenrick and Alexis. They always have a booth at GalaxyCon. You can find them on Instagram at Amorable Art. And we've had the pleasure of talking with Pat Kenrick here on this show. And I quote, you can find it in our And I Quote playlist on our channel. Make sure you do so after you're done watching this incredible Comic-Con.
This is riveting.
Like geeking out episode, I should say, of And I Quote. You know what, man? Here's my thing.
I just realized that this show has been 19 minutes of us geeking out about meeting other people.
Well, I mean, that's one of the best things about Comic-Cons is meeting different people from different walks of life, or meeting just the vendors or the celebrities. It doesn't really matter.
Right?
Because Comic-Cons are meant to be fun. They're meant to be experience, not
Oh,
just
yeah.
fun.
Oh, yeah. No, they're fantastic. They're fantastic.
I would love to see you in Richmond, man. I'll do my best. I can't guarantee it because, like
I'll
I said,
be there.
I'm trying
I'm
to
already
save
locked in.
I know. And a lot of the people I love from Star Wars are going to be in the building, which, gosh almighty, I want to meet them so bad. So, gosh, we'll see what happens. I can't make any guarantees. I don't want to promise. I don't want to make a promise to the person who's watching or listening to this on behalf of And I Quote channel that we can't keep. But I will do my best to see you there and to do an Instagram live with my device in the DeLorean. That would be pretty freaking cool.
Yeah, I'll tell you. The invitation is open. And it is ongoing. If you want, you can come in and do whatever you need to do inside the car.
Instagram Live.
Or it'd be fun. Like, oh my God, we could even do a thing where we're like driving around with the doors up, and you're like transmitting, because you can drive with these doors up as long as it's like 20 miles an hour or so. It's like safe.
Oh, I didn't know that. I was not.
Anything over that, the doors start to bend.
Yeah, there's a lot of things I don't know about DeLoreans, so I'm learning. I'm learning as I go. Hey, it's like a wise person once said in 1981. How? I don't know. I'm making this up as I go. That's from Raiders of the Lost Ark. So
that's pretty much how I live my life. But yeah.
And I freaking love that movie. But then again, who doesn't? Who doesn't like Raiders of the Lost Ark? Seriously, get at it.
So, do you know? You want to know something? I'm gonna like bust myself out here.
Okay.
Did you know that I had only seen Raiders of the Lost Ark? It was the only Indiana Jones movie I had ever seen up until about 15 years ago. Wow. Now, if you do the math of when they came out.
Well, Raiders was 1981, and then Temple of Doom was 1984, and then Last Crusade.
So we're talking like 2005 was when I saw Temple of Doom for the first time. Yeah. Yeah, I pretty much stopped after Raiders.
What did you think of the other films?
I liked Last Crusade.
Oh, yeah.
Better than Temple of Doom.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
I did not like the
Kingdom of the Crystal Skull?
Crystal Skull, and I have not seen the
Dial of Destiny.
Yeah, Hedwig and the Angry Itch, or whatever it's called, yeah.
Well, it's called Dial of Destiny, but
sure.
The last one is called Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny.
Yeah, I've not seen it yet. So.
Okay, I actually find, granted, I want to do my best to go to the next question here, but Indiana
we were never going to get there.
Which is kind of, Indiana Jones is just kind of one of the most popular characters of all time, as he should be. So I didn't see Temple of Doom until like 2 or 3 years ago during the lockdown, I think it was right before the lockdown, or it was during it. It was in between.
Like ever,
period.
Oh, so you even have more time on me then?
Yeah, I got more time. Yeah, not to play the time machine.
I thought you were gonna hang up on me when you were like,
no,
what?
No, I haven't. I didn't see Temple of Doom until a couple years ago. And here's the truth. This is the truth. I watched Temple of Doom the first time around, and I thought to myself, this woman, Willie Scott, is so annoying, and she's driving the movie down. It's terrible. It's bad. Like, I just didn't really like the movie at the end of the day. I thought to myself, Willie Scott is a horrible character. This movie is just not working for me. Like, certain action beats are fine. And Short Round, Ki Kwan, he played Data in the Goonies, for Pete's sake.
Sure.
Like, he's cool. I like him. But, like, overall, the movie just didn't work. And then a couple years later, this is actually really recently. So this kind of brings us up to before we get to the next question, because I'm getting things recently. So I rewatched Temple of Doom about a week ago, or almost a week and a half ago. No, it was 2 weeks ago. Excuse me, 2 weeks ago. And I thought to myself, this movie's actually good. It's actually growing on me a bit. It's clearly not as good as Raiders or Last Crusade. Those two blow it out of the water. But Temple of Doom is actually a good movie. I actually, it grew on me. My opinion has changed over the course of time. And that's what happens with a lot of people. When you watch a movie the first time and you don't like it and you go back and revisit it, you realize, hey, this wasn't as bad as I remember it. And, it works. And for me, Indiana Jones is a trilogy. It's not because originally I thought it was just a double G, which contained Raiders and Last Crusade, because Temple of Doom was the bad stepchild, but it ended up being really good. So now I think of Indiana Jones as a trilogy. Now, granted, I have seen the newest one, Dial of Destiny, and I will say this because I don't want to give away spoilers for those of you who have yet to see it, including our guest of honor here. I liked it. Granted, you have to suspend a lot of disbelief in a lot of sequences of the film, and I think they rely a little bit too heavily on CGI, but then again, a lot of films rely too heavily on CGI these days. But it worked overall. I think it was a good send-off for Harrison Ford's character. So if you get a chance to see Dial of Destiny, give it a chance. To me, it's better than Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, but then again, the bar was set really low. But, I'm just saying, for argument's sake.
There was a refrigerator. Which
they nuked the fridge, yeah.
So here, I have some backstory about that refrigerator that ties into my DeLorean.
Oh, the nuke the fridge? Okay, go ahead.
So
yeah.
Eventually, we're gonna get into talking about my writing. I assume.
Yes. Yes.
But here's the good story for everybody. This is you can wow your friends at a party with this one.
Mm-hmm.
So when Bob Gale was writing the script to Back to the Future, he originally had the time machine as a refrigerator.
Oh, yes.
But he was afraid that kids would get trapped in refrigerators and die and suffocate, because back then it's not refrigerators now. You can't open them from the inside.
Oh yeah.
So he wanted a stainless steel refrigerator as the time machine.
Yeah.
His trepidation of having kids' deaths on his hands got him to move away from that in the script. So then he said, well, let's make it a car. Well, Mustang, I believe it's Mustang. And if I'm wrong, I don't want a whole bunch of people jumping all over me and being like, you fucking idiot, you're wrong. I'm going to say right now, there's a possibility that I'm wrong, but I think it was Mustang or Corvette. Nope, it could have been one of those two.
Yeah.
Wanted to give him $500,000 to use their car as the time machine.
Yeah.
And Bob Gale said, Doc Brown doesn't drive a Mustang. Like, that doesn't fit with his personality. Like, if you see Doc Brown, he doesn't get into a Mustang.
No.
Right? So then they were like, well, we're going to abandon the refrigerator idea. And that's when then they found the DeLorean, stainless steel. It kind of looks like a refrigerator. It looks like a spaceship, and it all kind of fit. When they were making that Indiana Jones movie, that refrigerator that he climbs into to shield himself from the blast is a direct homage to Bob Gale wanting the time machine in Back to the Future to be a refrigerator. It was a nod to him.
Right, because Spielberg was friends with Zemeckis and Bob Gale. Yeah.
Yes. So that's why he gets into a refrigerator, because it was a inside joke. You have to know the history to even understand why that happened.
I've watched the behind-the-scenes documentaries on the making of the Back to the Future trilogy, and I do remember hearing that story. But the nuke the fridge connection with Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, I didn't even think of that, because I saw the movie once in 2008 when it first premiered. I thought it was okay. I ended up I thought it was all right, actually. Like, I enjoyed it to a point, and then I went back years later, which was recently, rewatched it. And I thought, you know what? The best thing about this movie, at least for me, I can't speak for everybody, but for me, is when Indy is talking about the history of this artifact, and he's like, you're getting that scholar version of Indy that we, don't really see much in the later films. I mean, you still see it in Last Crusade, but you don't see it as much in the latter two films. But the later two films. But when he's explaining everything during the movie, and he's like really into the exploration of this artifact, it's like, okay, that's the Indy that should have worked in this movie. But unfortunately, the movie around him just didn't work. Like, his character arc between him and Marion was good, but the movie around it just didn't service the characters the best way it could have. But anyway, enough about Indiana Jones, because once again, this is, and I quote, with, at least I'm trying to say this right, Brian Paone, as we're geeking out over movie franchises and different characters. Don't forget to like and share this episode with everyone you know. If you have any questions,
I feel like we forgot that. I forgot that we're live, and you and I are just like shooting the shit. So
yeah, it's too much fun. And we may be seeing each other in a couple of months at a little event called GalaxyCon, which happens to be held in Richmond, Virginia. Which is in Virginia, which is 3 hours from where I am right now. So who knows? We'll see what happens. Can't make any promises, and I don't want to make any guarantees, but we'll see what happens. To be announced.
I will make a promise that if you get there, we will do something inside the car. We might make out. We might do a podcast. I don't know.
Jeez. Boy, this could be taken a couple of different ways. But anyway, if you have any questions for Brian Paone, let us know in the comments. Let us know in the chat. And don't forget to like and share this episode if you feel so inclined, because of all the geeky stuff we're geeking out about. With all your closest friends, we greatly appreciate it. With the movies and TV series and other properties that we've already mentioned here on this episode, when did you decide to become a writer?
7th grade. Yeah, I wrote my first short story in 7th grade. It was called The Night is Young. It is actually the only thing that I've ever written that I still don't have a copy of. Everything I've written beyond that one story, I still have a copy of. And the reason why I don't have a copy of it is because there was only one copy in existence, and someone spilt a bottle of Coke all over it. Basically disintegrated the papers. But in 7th grade, it was right after I had read The Dark Half by Stephen King, and I started writing short stories. And a friend of mine was an artist, really, really good drawer. I can't make a stick figure to save my life. So every time I wrote a new short story, I would give it to him. He'd read it, and then he would design a front cover for me. and then I would staple it, the front cover, to my story, and I would pretend like I had a book, and I would let friends read it, and then it turned into a thing where where I would come back from school and kids were asking me like if I had a new story for them to read. And it was, and this isn't me like patting myself on the back, because these stories are fucking awful, trust me. But I would come back to school on Monday morning, and it became like a routine. I would hand the story that I wrote over the weekend to my friend Jason Leck. He's the artist. I still remember his name. He would make the cover. We'd staple it, and then I started using the school photocopier to make copies of what I thought were books. Because when you're in 7th grade, your perception of stuff is somewhat warped, right? So I'm like, oh my God, I'm writing books. No, they're like 5 pages, of handwritten shit. But I started passing them out to the kids, and it turned into a thing, and it was really weird. And like I said, I still have every single one of those except for that very first story I ever wrote. And I just knew that like there was something magical in creating universes, creating worlds, creating characters that people were excited to read, And when I went to high school, I took creative writing. Mrs. Patch, that's her name. I say that out loud because I would love to find her. I've been trying to track her down now for a couple of years. She was very much a part of shaping who I am as an author. I took creative writing in high school with her, and I felt like I was getting super aggravated with her, that she was being harder on me than everybody else. There was like 28 kids in the class, and she was grading me harder, and she was pissing me the fuck off, right? And I remember one day, I was like a sophomore in high school, or junior. Yeah, I was a junior in high school. And I remember like pulling her aside and being like, why are you so hard on me? Like, why are you, like, you're killing me. She's like, because you're the only one in this class who like gets it. And I was like, oh, seriously? She was like, have you seen the movie Whiplash? It's like the drumming movie.
Everyone's seen it except me.
Okay, watch it.
I mean, I know what it is.
Reference, yeah, she was basically holding me to a higher standard. So basically, there was like 28 people in our class. 27 people were getting like B's and A's down here, but I was getting C's if I was down here because she saw something in me. And I was like, all right, fuck it. We're gonna make this happen. And I wrote a short story as one of the assignments, and it won an award. And then she started teaching it to her creative writing classes like later. She actually put it as part of her curriculum. It was a short story called Lima Beans in a Jar of Petals. And she invited me to come into her class the day that her students were dissecting and talking about my story. And she let me sit in the back and didn't tell the students who I was. They had no idea I was the author of the story, that their assignment was to find the symbolism and stuff like that. And I sat there and listened to them all. And then she introduced me as the author. And I watched like half the class almost like fucking fall out of their chairs. They were like, oh my God. It's like, and I got up there, and I got up to the front of the class, and you know what I said? I said, sometimes a banana is just a banana. Symbolism, it's not always super important, but it's what you take from it. And I tried to drill home that sometimes a banana is just a banana. We hear music, we listen. I'm a huge music fan, and I'm sure that what I'm getting from certain songs isn't exactly what the singer wanted me to get, right? Because you can't match what they're going through, like verbatim, right? And I feel writing is the same way. And, sometimes a banana is just a banana. It is what it is. And they loved that I said that. And I appreciated all of their, the symbolism they thought I was doing. But I wanted to teach them that the symbolism should have been what they felt, not what they thought I felt. And I think art really should be what the receiver feels, not what the artist feels. And that might lose me a bunch of points in the art world. But I feel like art is there for the artist to put something to the world, whether it's painting, music, writing, sculpting, whatever. But art only exists when somebody receives it and then interprets it and makes it their own and then applies it to what they're going through. So if something I've written and they interpret it completely different than I wanted it to, but it helped them or they receive it, then it still works. Like that's what art is, right? Art is you put it out and people need to receive it on their own terms, not on the artist's terms.
Right on, man. Right on. Fascinating.
And there's my soapbox.
It's fascinating. And we do greatly appreciate you sharing that with us. Now, from your standpoint, what would you say are some of the biggest rewards about being a writer?
So I would say two things. One, I do so many conventions and festivals. I love when people come back to my booth or they search me out because the last time they were at that convention, or they may have seen me at a different convention, they bought one of my books and they loved it. And they know that I'm going to be at the next one. So they go hunt me down because they want to buy something else. I find that people are apprehensive to buy more than one book from an author that they don't know. Because you don't want to spend like all this money and invest time in somebody, they don't know. It would basically be like if I'm going to go back to music. So if there's a band, you're not going to go, if they have 15 albums, you're not going to spend your hard-earned money and buy all 15 albums, right? You're going to buy one. You're not just going to check them out. I'm going to buy one. You might do some reviews, you might whatever. And then if you like that one, you might buy another one, or you might buy two, because you're like, oh, I really like that album. I like this band. They're really good. Let's see what's going on. So I find that also works in the author world. So it's amazing when people come back and find me and they're like, hey, I saw you at Annapolis Comic-Con and I bought your time travel novel. Oh my God, it was amazing. What else you got? I want, let's do this, And so that's really rewarding. I have a guy, and you and I talked about this yesterday. I have a guy, I love him so much. He bought a book from my booth, went home, read it, loved it. And he has bought in every single book I've ever written. And he goes to all the conventions and he makes a point to come find me and to make sure that he has everything. And if I have a new book, he buys it blindly, just bang. And he's told me, he's looked at me in the face and says, you're my favorite author. And it's like this guy, I don't even know his name. I need to, that's shitty of me. I'm going to admit that. That's really shitty of me. But this guy has invested himself, and I'm at the point where branding is big, right? So you brand yourself. So obviously I've branded myself enough to this guy where he knows that every time I write a new book, he's going to get a level of quality that he expects when he reads a book. And that's what I want for everybody, for anybody who reads anything I write. I want a level of quality, and there's a sense of branding. And he's just a good example of just a stranger who'd never heard of me one day, I gave him an elevator pitch to one of my books. He was like, sure, I'll try it. And now this guy is like my biggest fan, and it's awesome. So that's just super, super cool.
Well, it truly is. And also this episode of And I Quote with Brian Paone is going very well, and it also is very cool. Don't forget to like and share this with everyone you know. If you have any questions for Brian, let us know in the comments, let us know in the chat. If you're joining us live or on the replay, thank you for being here. We do greatly appreciate it. On the opposite,
14-year-old can write a book, hit, upload to Amazon, boom, it's on Amazon. So the pond, it went from a puddle, right? I gotta do this because it's weird. I gotta go a puddle to a pond to a lake. Now we're in an ocean. We're all fighting now for space, and that wasn't the case. I've been published since 2007. When my first 3 books came out, there was no such thing as self-publishing. That didn't exist yet. We weren't fighting for there's something like 1 million books now published every year on Amazon or something. There's some weird, crazy number. So all of a sudden you go, oh my God, I'm on a publishing company, but I'm not on one of the big 5, right? And so I'm competing with some 14-year-old who just wrote a shitty ass novel and hits, upload, and now it's on Amazon. So all of a sudden you go, my book cover has to be spot on. My blurb has to be spot on. And you got to get out there and you got to get it. And the hardest part is when you do these conventions and these festivals. This is a huge part of who I am as an author. And I love them. I live by them. I just think I really just go all in on these conventions. But if you are a person walking down the aisle and you're seeing fantasy book after sci-fi book after fantasy book after sci-fi book, by the time you hit the 4th or 5th table, it's white noise, right? You just all the covers start to look the same. The authors are trying to get your business. So I find that constantly reinventing. How do we stand out? How do I get somebody to my table? How do I get somebody who's the 5th, 6th, 7th person down the aisle to want to stop at my booth? What do I have to offer that the other booths that they walk past doesn't? And so that's tricky. And that takes some sort of, creative sense. So I would definitely say that is the hardest part now that we live in this self-published world. So, and I love the self-published world. I'm not anti. I think it's great that authors can write a book and have it out there because I come from the world of music first. I was in bands for 20 years. I was on small indie labels, and then I was in a band. I was in bands that we put out our own stuff. And so when books kind of went that way, I was all for it. And I still am all for it. But you have to navigate the waters a little bit differently because there is a bunch of shit, what we call swamp. There's a bunch of swamp in the waters, so that's kind of hard. Same thing with music, all the years I was in music,
Gotcha. Just got to keep on swimming. Just keep swimming.
Just keep on swimming, like Finding Nemo.
Yeah, just like the movie. Just like the movie taught us many years ago.
Yeah.
So we talked about that. What pieces of advice would you offer to aspiring writers?
If you're starting out, I would definitely say that right now, the climate that we're in, you have to understand. And if you don't get this, then you're going to fail immediately. Writing your book is only about 40% of your job. Because 60% of your job is going to be marketing and advertising your book. Because it's awesome you wrote a book, but if you don't advertise or market it, and if you're not comfortable getting out there, the only people who are going to buy it is your mother, your next door neighbor, and maybe your college roommate. You'll have 3 sales and you're done. So that sounds harsh, but there's, like hard love. If you are not comfortable with marketing, learn how to market. Learn how to get comfortable with it. Learn how to do conventions and festivals and farmers markets and craft fairs. Learn how to be comfortable talking to people about your book. Also, if you aren't confident about talking about your book, why would I, as a reader, feel comfortable buying your book? You're the author. If you're not projecting that you love your book, that I should buy it, that I should read it, then I'm not going to. And a lot of authors are introverts by nature, and I get that. I am not. I'm an extrovert. But I do recognize that a lot of authors are introverts. And that's okay. I'm not telling people that they need to all of a sudden like be an extrovert or they're not going to make it as an author. But there's Facebook ads, there's Amazon ads, there's BookBud ads, there's BookFunnel. You can hide behind a computer if you really hate being in front of people. There's no excuse. There's so many avenues to get your book out there. Mark Dawson, Self-Publishing Formula, he's a guru on Facebook and Amazon ads. If you are someone that's like, oh my God, I could never go to a convention, I could never go to a festival and stand there, I freeze up, I don't like talking in front of people. That's cool. You can still win. You can still be on the same level as all of us. But you need to master the online ads to do that. And so that's what I say. There's no excuse. There is no, oh, well, I'm an introvert. Well, if you're an introvert, there are so many things you can do to sell your books online. If you're an extrovert, there are so many things you can do in person. So it's kind of like a win-win. It's basically how bad you want it.
Very true, very true. Great pieces of advice for aspiring writers. And speaking of books, let's take a look. It's in a book, or in this case, we're going to be looking at book covers. But this one right here, Packet Man, what is this all about?
Oh, man. So Packet Man is, as you can see, it's kind of a throwback a little bit. It takes place in 1989. The main character is a graffiti artist, and he's also a kind of a drug dealer on the side. And he's the main character, but the other main character is someone who is super square. He's a businessman. He's a husband. He's like Carlton from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, if you remember that show. He's just someone that should not be caught up in any sort of adventure or anything like that. And they wind up at a party together, and shit goes down, and they have to go on the run together. So now you've got this graffiti artist, street dealer, a suave, flamboyant, smooth type character, matched with this like square, just really boring type guy. And they're on the run from drug dealers. They're on the run from the government. And it also takes place during the 89 San Francisco earthquake. That's the climax of the book. That plays into kind of what happens. But so it's kind of got that late 80s hip hop, graffiti artist, street drug, Judgment Night, break-in type feel to it. It was a very fun book to write. It was a very, very fun book to write. And the main character, the guy who's just super stuck up and he's so, just square and all that. He has to go through a change in order for, him to get out of his situation, especially when the earthquake hits. So there's no spoiler, but Yeah, he goes through a bunch of stuff, and it's a fun ride. I've been told that it is the easiest book I've ever written. Meaning like it just like you can just read it like bang 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 bang. But I really enjoyed kind of going down that like street dealer. I was born and raised in Salem and Lynn, Massachusetts, which is not a good area, and I kind of like borrowed on some of my childhood, teenage years, running with some not so savory characters. If we want, I think my mother is watching, so I'm gonna just stop there. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I gotcha. Apparently your screen flipped over now.
I saw that. That was weird. Let me see if I can flip it. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, flip it again, because
I can't.
all of a sudden he went into a different zone.
I know. It's like I said, like, yeah, I'm gonna. No, it won't let me.
Oh, good Lord. This is going to be interesting.
That's all right. We'll just do this.
No, I don't want to.
It actually it won't let me. I hit the button and it won't let me.
That is so weird.
Yeah, why would it do it on its own?
This is trippy, ladies and gentlemen. This is very trippy. Oh boy.
I can't flip it. It won't let me.
That is well. Some people say the show must go on.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, if it flips by itself, that's cool. If not, we'll just do it this way.
Well, I don't want you to have to turn your neck and hurt yourself and have to go on painkillers for 6 weeks. That's the last thing we want on this show. But,
oh my God.
No, we don't want that on this show. No. But speaking of things going backwards and forwards in time, this one here, Moonlight City Drive.
City Drive.
What's this one all about?
Yeah, so that is my trilogy. And I say that when I tell people it's my trilogy, it means that there will never be a part 4. It's not a series. And I say that because a lot of people are apprehensive of starting a series by an unknown author, because God knows the authors hit 6-7 books and they don't finish the series. So I always tell people, nope, it's done. It's over. I wrote them all at the same time. I wrote them back to back to back. Moonlight City Drive 1, 2, 3. I didn't write any books in between. I did that on purpose, so my tone didn't change, the dialogue didn't change, the atmosphere didn't change. And really quickly, what it is, it's a detective hot on the trails of a Jack the Ripper style killer. And there's a 300-year-old witch from Salem, Massachusetts, where I'm from. And every time the killer kills somebody, the witch reanimates the corpse, and she's building an army of ghouls. Well, the detective gets wind of this, so he has to make a decision. Does he side with the witch to take down the killer, or does he side with the killer to take down the witch? And that's kind of the premise of that. It starts in 1940s Las Vegas, and as you go through part 1, part 2, part 3, you wind up in 1980s Salem, Massachusetts. So it actually spans 40 years. I hate that I'm like that. Can we?
Well, you can always jump out and jump back in. That's always fair.
Will that screw you up at all, or?
No. You can always step out and step back in if you're having a technical problem. It's fine.
It's just like, all right.
Yeah,
but that's Moonlight City Drive. That, to answer your question, I guess I'll jump out and jump back in.
Yeah, that's fine. That's not a problem. No big deal. Things happen here on the show.
That was weird because it just happened on its own. Like nobody did anything, right?
No.
Right.
So you can try. So our guest is having a bit of a technical difficulty, but while he is fixing his settings there, I do want to let you know that this is And I Quote with our special guest, Brian Paone, and we're more than happy to have him here on this show. And I think he's got his situation under control. There he is. Yeah, all it takes is a little bit of magic. So
that was weird.
So strange, but hey, we've talked about a lot of different properties on this episode, and who knows, maybe things are turning a bit stranger things. There's a show that harkens back to the 80s, which I've never seen before, but everyone seems to have seen it except me.
You've never seen Stranger Things?
I know, it's pitiful. I grew up watching 80s movies, and I've never seen.
We're done.
I'm
We're
sorry.
done here. And then
come on. I apologize. I do apologize to the person who's watching or listening to this, who may be a Stranger Things fan, but I've never seen it. People keep telling me how it's one of the best things in sliced bread, and I have yet to see it.
But it's not one of the best things in sliced bread. It's just really good.
Well, people like it a lot. I don't know.
I know, but saying it's the best things in sliced bread makes
well, I may have been overstating the obvious. I may have been pushing it a bit too far there, but that's just an expression that I use sometimes. Yeah, I've never seen Stranger Things. I know. I'm behind the 8 ball, ladies. And it's ironic, though, because I eat buttermilk flavored Eggo waffles every morning. #, not a sponsor of this broadcast. But, the Stranger Things artwork is on the boxes now in the grocery store where I shop. So I see Stranger Things everywhere I go, even though I'm not the one who's being strange right now. Other than the fact that I've never seen your show, Netflix. Sorry. And by the way, that's not a sponsor of this show either. But as far as going backwards and forwards and being timely, wibbly, wobbly, timey stuff, yours truly of 2095. What's this one all about?
So this is my time travel novel, and this novel took me a long time to write. I did not want a physical time machine. I didn't want like Bill and Ted's have the phone booth. H.G. Wells' time machine has an actual time machine, like whirring lights and all that. Back to the Future has the DeLorean. I fell in love with time machine stories that didn't have that. There's a movie called The Jacket. If you've never seen it, look it up. It's pretty fucking cool.
I've seen it. Adrian Brody, Keira Knightley. Yeah.
Yep. Jacket's great. 12 Monkeys dances around this a bit.
I've seen 12 Monkeys.
Yes. So that was kind of my thing. And I didn't know how I was going to go about it when I started writing it. I just knew I didn't want a physical vehicle. But then I came across quantum entanglement. And quantum entanglement, so I went ahead and I read like books and I watched all these videos and I spent 4 months researching quantum entanglement to the point where like my brain was going to explode. And I was like, yes, this is how this is going to work. So quantum entanglement says that if you split a particle in half, right? And you make it so if a particle is a particle and you split in half and you separate it and you spin it, it's going to spin the same way. And you can send one of those 1 billion light years out into the universe. And if you change spinning the one that's in your hand, the one that's 1 billion years out into the universe is going to also change because they are like connected. And they don't know why. Like the quantum entanglements, they still can't figure out why, but they know it happens. So it's like, oh, that is pretty interesting. I can use that for my time travel novel. So in 2095, there's a scientist who wants to go back to 1981 for a specific reason. And I'm not saying why for spoiler reasons, because I want people to read my books. So in quantum entanglement, it says that if you have this molecule, it needs to have split in half, they always have to work together in tandem. He found that he can switch like Quantum Leap, if you remember the show Quantum Leap, with family members. So he finds a family member of his, descendant, that he can, in my book, we call it the bounce. He can bounce with. The main character of my book is the one who's being bounced with. So he is ignorant to what's going on. He literally wakes up in 2095. He was living in 1981, like last night, and now he wakes up in 2095, and he doesn't know why. And he keeps being bounced back and forth. And as he kind of gets privy to it and works through it, he realizes he's part of a time travel conspiracy, and that's what that book is about. So there's, some stuff that goes into it, and the bounces back and forth because you can only bounce with somebody who is your ancestor, right? Because we share DNA. So that's the how he worked that out.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Very intriguing stuff. Very intriguing stuff. And once again, if you have any questions for Ryan Paone on this episode of And I Quote, let us know in the comments. Let us know in the chat. If you're joining this live or on the replay, we thank you so much for being here. We cannot do this without you. With that being said, any other special memories or maybe one moment that stands out for you from being at conventions, whether you're there as a vendor or there as an attendee? Because I know we've already mentioned quite a few already.
Sure. Yeah, I would say, well, we talked about Barry Bostwick. So Timothy Zahn, who's the writer of
Star Wars.
Right? So
Heir to the Empire. Yeah.
So Timothy Zahn had a booth like across from me. And his, of course, his the line was like around the corner and all that. And I kept going up to them, and him and his wife, he was there with his wife. And I said, hey, what would it take to get you into my DeLorean for a photo? And he was like, only if I can drive it like in the convention center. If we can get it to 88 miles an hour. I was like, that's not going to happen. I was like, I'm probably going to get arrested if we do that. And then he came over to me when he had no people like on his line. He was like, all right, well, let's take some photos. It's like, let's do this. And he sat in my DeLorean, and I was like, I have Timothy Zahn in my DeLorean. Like, there's so many weird, like, interlacing things for me. So have you heard of the 501st?
Yes.
Okay,
considering I'm a Star Wars fan, and we do a show on this channel, And I Quote channel, called the Nerdy Cantina every week.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I'm in the 501st. I've been in the 501st since 2005.
Congratulations.
My God, that brings me
what is
19
years. That's a long time.
Oh my God.
Man, time flies when you're having fun.
All right. So I've met George. I've actually hung out with George Lucas.
Okay, now I'm just getting really jello of you right now. But okay, go ahead.
So I hung out with George Lucas in a very small setting at the Museum of Science in Boston. And Anthony Daniels. I've hung out with him so many times that we just punch each other in the arm and we make fun of each other and then walk away. I've licked. So all of a sudden people are going to start hating me now. But I have a picture of me licking the R2 unit from episode 2.
Oh,
I spent a day with Ben Burt. I've had Peter Mayhew and his wife in my car, and they took me out to Chinese food.
Oh.
I picked Jeremy Bullock up from the airport once and brought him to his hotel in my car. Because this is back when the 501st, when they would trust the 501st to be security. We did we did John Williams. I was part of a John Williams like intro in New Hampshire once. But the 501st is weird because that doesn't happen anymore. I'm talking like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So I have spent like multiple hours with all of these people, but me and George Lucas, he was so great because he came out and it was like 15 of us in this bar with George Lucas, and he hung out, he chatted with all of us, and he was super kind. But I could tell that I could tell that he didn't want to be there. He just had to be because there's like a promo thing. And I was like, okay. And he took pictures with us and we shook hands and, we all had a drink and, it was really cool. But Anthony Daniels, I've been reading some things online lately about people bad-mouthing Anthony Daniels, which is weird because my experience with Anthony Daniels through 20 years of being in the 501st has been nothing but fantastic. I mean, he will just do whatever you need him to do. He loves the 501st. He's super fantastic. He's just amazing. And people have been bad-mouthing him like recently, which is weird. I don't know. I don't know why they're doing that. But I hung out with Kenny Baker. Gosh.
Man, you've hung out with a number of stars before they tragically passed away.
Yeah, but because of the 501st, because I got into it in 2005.
Yeah, being a part of the 501st clearly has its perks, ladies and gentlemen.
No, and the other thing is like Disney Star Wars weekends.
Mm-hmm.
They had the 501st come march in it, and they stopped that. They only want Disney people now. So
that's
I'm gonna
corporate
tell you-
for you.
No, I'm going to tell you. I have a someone videoed one of the Star Wars, one of the parades I marched in, and I have it.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember marching in that parade, and there is something magical about being in costume and having that Star Wars theme playing and seeing hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people. Like,
they love it.
Oh my God.
They love it.
Oh my God. You can't even describe what that feels like.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So, and that's why, I mean, yeah, that's why I'm in the 501st. It's just, it's stuff you can't even describe to people. But.
Well, cosplay is always fun. I started cosplaying a number of years ago, and now this year in 2024, speaking of Star Wars, I'm going to be cosplaying a season 1 iteration of Kanan Jarrus from Star Wars Rebels.
Oh, cool! Right.
I got the last pieces of my costume on its way to the man cave. So, or the cosplay cave, if you want to call it that. I don't know, because I got a collection of costumes hanging up in one of my closets, which I don't really have much room anymore, man. Like, I want to do like 1 or 2, maybe 3 more this year, and I'm already thinking I don't have enough room for this stuff. This is a problem. We need bigger closets, ladies and gentlemen. Look it up online. You can find it somewhere. But as far as memories go, thank you for sharing that with us. Do greatly appreciate it. Now, I do want to let you know something really special here at And I Quote, and every episode of And I Quote, rather, is what I should say, is that we're powered by our good friends at Poddex. Now, check this out. Poddex are the hottest new tool for podcasters who are looking to have more meaningful conversations or simply gamify their podcast. You simply shuffle up, ask a question, and you let the content roll. You can get yours today at poddex.com and use that promo code Ryan10. That's RYAN10. Ryan10 for 10% off your order. Links are located in the description of this episode and every episode of And I Quote, I should say, for those of you who are wondering. And our first question presented by our good friends at Poddex is simply this. What's the strangest or most bizarre thing you've ever seen in the middle of a road?
For me?
Yes, for you. Yeah.
This is a great story. So me and my friend Thomas were driving to Fredericksburg, Virginia, from where I am.
Yes.
And in the middle of the road was a lamp. On Route 95, so like 70, 75, 80 miles an hour. Why there was a lamp in the middle of the road, I don't know. But I didn't have time to swerve. And it hit my undercarriage. And I dragged it. Because the DeLorean is really low.
Yeah, it is. I've seen it.
It's super low. So I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. So we pulled over and we looked underneath, and my friend Thomas was like, you hit a lamp. I was like, who hits a lamp on a highway? That's like the most fucked up random thing ever. But it was a full lamp. Like it fell off a moving truck.
Ooh.
Yeah, so it was in the middle of the road, and I hit it at full speed.
That's not pretty.
It didn't do any damage to the car, but it was
thankfully the car was okay.
Thankfully, but it's like a lamp. it's like,
yeah, was this like a house lamp or like something
no,
you would
it's
put
like a house lamp, like a table.
Oh, it's a table lamp. Okay, that's what I was getting at.
Yeah, you put next to you on the couch in the living room.
Gosh.
And I hit it at like full speed. Like,
that's
so weird.
That's just okay. Clearly something had to have fallen off the back of a truck.
It must have, and it scared the shit out of me.
Yeah, something must have fallen off the back of somebody's truck or something like that. Maybe what is it called? A moving van or something?
Yeah, a moving van. Yeah, it must have, because my God, I hit that lamp.
That's a little.
Like, my God,
hitting a lamp at full speed. That's out there. But as far as more than hitting a lamp, Poddex wants to know, where do you go specifically when you need to blow off some steam?
Oh gosh, yeah, that's a good question. I go to a lot of concerts.
There you go.
Yeah, I go to a lot of concerts. Sure. I love concerts. I like wineries. I like breweries. I'll take the DeLorean out for a drive and just, hit a drinking spot. So, yeah.
Do you have Huey Lewis in the news blasting when you're driving?
So I have a funny story about that. The only time I've ever been pulled over in the DeLorean by a police officer was Monterey, California.
Oh, wow.
And I had picked up a friend, and we were going to go out for the night, and we put both doors up. And if you know anything about the Monterey Aquarium is considered one of the nation's best aquarium. It is packed all the time.
Oh, wow.
So we put both doors up, and we were blasting Power of Love as we approached the aquarium.
Oh, God.
Because there's a line outside.
Oh,
And then
to get
who
in the
goes
door.
by me? Monterey police.
Oh, no.
And she flips, and she turns on her lights, and she pulls me over. Yep. So, and she didn't give me a ticket, but she came up. She's like, I pulled you over because, I don't know, your doors are up and you're playing loud music. And then she went back to her car, her patrol car. She took my license and everything. And she ran me, and she came back up, and she's like, she goes, I don't think we have a statute for driving with your doors open. So I can't really write you. So just be smart about it. And I was like, yes, ma'am. Okay.
Be careful next time. I think that was her point. Be careful next time you're driving with doors wide open.
Yeah, it was weird. It was, yeah.
Wow, I'm surprised the crowd that was outside of the building, what is it, the aquarium facility, didn't run over and say, "Oh my gosh, it's the best car ever! Can we take pictures?"
No, oh my God, they all had their phones out watching me get pulled over. They were like,
geez.
DeLorean getting pulled over.
Did this happen to end up on the 6 o'clock news that night in
It may
Monterey?
have. I don't know. I kind of just buried my head in the sand after that. Not sure.
Something must have happened that night. I don't know. Something that must have happened that I'm not aware of. But anyway, maybe the person who's watching or listening to this right now maybe isn't aware of. But outside of being pulled over for blasting your music, one of the best songs ever made, too loud with your doors wide open because you're just hanging out, having a good time, and enjoying the beauty of life.
Right.
Because everyone has a right to enjoy life. Podtex is curious though. What is the one thing? Excuse me. What is the one thing you'll be really disappointed if you never get to experience it?
Oh gosh, what's one thing I'll be most disappointed if I experience? Skydiving.
There you go.
Yeah.
Jumping out of a perfectly good airplane, just like Keanu Reeves did in 1991's Point Break.
Because I won't do it, but I feel like I will regret it, but I still won't do it.
That's
yeah.
If you want to do it in a different way rather than physically doing it yourself and just watching other people do it, just watch the film Point Break.
Right. I love Point Break. Yeah.
Oh, you do? You do like that movie?
Oh yeah, it's a great movie.
Utah.
Utah. Surfing. Yeah.
We're surfing, bro. You're not going to start chanting, are you? I might. No. Anyway, Bodie, man. It's the ultimate rush. It's the ultimate rush. It's not a bad thing to die doing what you love. That's what he says in the movie. He says, if you want the ultimate rush, you got to be willing to pay the ultimate price, man.
That's right.
That's what he says to Johnny Utah. So, which these names in this movie are just so out there, but for the context of the movie, they work because Johnny Utah used to be a football player in the context of the movie. Never mind. If you've never seen Point Break from 1991, directed by Catherine Bigelow of all people.
Oh, Catherine Bigelow is a great director. She also directed Pet Sematary 2.
Well, that I didn't know, but I also know she directed. What was that true story movie she did? Zero Dark 30 was really good.
Zero Dark 30 was great.
Dude, that movie was.
That was really good.
Catherine Bigelow directed the living heck out of that thing.
Yes.
In my opinion. But if you've never seen Point Break, which is one of her earlier works, please feel free to go back and visit that. It's on Freevee, which is a free streaming service right now.
Yes.
And it's also free with ads on YouTube. And I believe, if I remember this correctly, I apologize. It's also streaming for free with ads on Tubi, which is another free streaming service.
Oh my God, you're just full of that.
I've seen it all. I've watched it on all three. So, and it's still there because I searched it the other day, and I'm like, is this movie still around? Of course it is, because it's streaming. What are you going to do?
Right.
And it's been around for over 30 years. What's wrong with that? There's no problem with that. It's old enough. Poddex is curious though, but if you could install what is known as one piece of advice within a baby's mind, what advice would you give that baby?
A baby's mind.
Could be any piece of advice in the world.
Gosh.
Anything at all.
It would be learn and master your limitations.
Ooh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Because you can dream big, but if it's not within your limitations, you're gonna fail. So we all have limitations, and if we know our limitations, then we can succeed. I think that's important. I think that's important to know our limitations. So
that's fair. That's a valid point, and we thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah.
And Poddex wants to know what's the main thing they should say. What's the main thing on your bucket list?
Oh, my bucket list. So I want to go to. I really want to go to the Falkland Islands. If nobody knows what that is. It's what they call the gateway to Antarctica. There is like 1,000 penguins and puffins running around, and I have never met Stephen King. I am 47 years old. I have been to his house.
Wow.
I've been to his house. I have pictures to prove it. And he has been my number one inspiration since I was in 7th grade, and I still have not yet been in the same room as that man. That is probably on my bucket list. So, I mean, yeah, that's probably it.
Okay.
That's probably what I got. So, So, Ryan, if you want to talk for like 3 to 4 minutes, I have a child who needs help.
Yeah, well, that wraps up our Poddex. We were actually going to wrap up here.
Cool.
In a second, so you're all good. And plus, I have a prior commitment that I got to jump into right after this. So, thank you for answering that. But I want to let you know that this has been a fantastical, or should I say, educational episode of the season premiere of And I Quote with indie writer and DeLorean owner Brian Paone. Brian, thank you so much for being here. It is great.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Thank you for answering all these questions and bearing with us and sharing all these Eat Your Hollywood stories of some of the biggest names in Hollywood that you've had a chance to meet and greet, rub elbows with, and have them sit in your DeLorean time machine, which I'm so jealous I don't have my own, but hey, I don't have that kind of cash.
Hey, you can live vicariously through me. You can come here anytime you want.
That's true. And we can always meet up. We can always meet up there. We can meet up in your neck of the woods. Yeah, we can meet up in your neck of the woods. We can meet up at GalaxyCon in Richmond, which is later on this year in 2024, which, by the way, look at GalaxyCon online. You'll find out more information about it there. Brian, if someone's watching or listening to this and they want to find out more about you or purchase one of your books, where's the best place to find you?
Best place is really anywhere books are sold, Amazon, wherever. But if you want an autographed copy of a paper book, www.brianpaone.com. You don't have to go there. You can go anywhere books are sold. All of my books are available for paperback, ebook, and audiobook. So if you're Audible, Chirp, whatever, Kindle, it's out there. There's no excuse.
Well, there you go. Great stuff. Just go 88 miles per hour, and we're going to see some serious stuff. Brian, once again, thank you for. I know I love it. I can't help it. I love those. I love those movies so much. We love these movies so much as the next person. And the second film turns 35 later this year. Back to the Future Part 2, more specifically, because it came out in 1989, the summer, I believe, of 1989. Sorry to make anyone else feel young or old, but that's the truth. But my name is Ryan of And I Quote Channel. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram personally at RyanRPM5. Check us out on all forms of social media. Links are located in the description of where you can find Brian Paone, our guest of honor for the season premiere of And I Quote 2024, as well as myself. Also, we got merch. We got T-shirts. We got hoodies. We got coffee mugs. We have stickers that you can put on your time-traveling DeLorean if you want. The link is in our bio. The links are located in the description and all across all forms of our social media. Also, if you want to support the show and buy us a coffee, or in our case, buy us a pizza, you can do that at buymeacoffee.com/andIquoteChannel. Links are located in the description below. Also, we're going to be on tour for Comic Cons this year in 2024. First stop on the tour is going to be February 16th through the 18th in Concord, North Carolina for Mad Monster Party. Yeah, Mad Monster Party. We're going to be there. It's going to be a lot of fun. Going to be meeting some of the biggest names in Hollywood, and we hope you are there to be with us. And also, we got a couple more dates there that you can see on your screen. More dates are going to be announced on all forms of our social media, so make sure you check us out. We really appreciate you guys. We're this close to hitting 1,000 subscribers. Once we do, we're going to throw a great big live stream celebration. It's going to have returning guests, surprise guests, and some special giveaways that you, the person who's watching or listening to this, our subscribers, can win. Special giveaways. They're coming soon, so stay tuned to our social media for that. In the meantime, like, comment, share, subscribe, ring that bell to be notified of when our new videos go up or they go live. And remember, life is better when reading. Take a look.
Famous Faces and Funnies in Melbourne, Florida is leading the way in pop culture fun. From comic books and graphic novels to Funko Pops and collector's items, Famous Faces and Funnies has it all. Rick Shea and the professional team at Famous Faces and Funnies are friendly and knowledgeable. Whether you're looking for toys, props, collector treasures, or a new comic book, Famous Faces and Funnies is your one-stop shop. To find Famous Faces and Funnies on Facebook and Twitter, just type at FFF Comics.
You've worked hard and written a great book. Now, it's time to give it a great cover. If you're an indie author or small press publisher, Plasmafire Graphics is your source for affordable cover illustration and graphic design. Plasmafire Graphics, when the look of your book matters to you.
Good morning. Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.